Well, good evening and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Hour here on YouTube and eventually over on Odyssey. My name is Tom Luongo. It is Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. I'm Tom Luongo, or not. Hope everything is going well. I hope everybody had a good week. I'm going to sit here and filibuster for a couple seconds until I am sure that everything is all good. And we'll go from there. I already see Tim Cutler and Anthony Alper and Greg Rockenberger's in the house. All right, everybody, hold on to your friggin' your wallets because Greg's in the house, and that just means that, you know, free drinks for everybody. Oh, did I say that out loud? All right. So, big day tomorrow. Big day tomorrow. The FOMC started meeting today. Tomorrow, we're by 2:30. We're going to know what the shape of the world is going to look like going forward. At least there's a probably 75% chance we'll have a really good understanding about what's going to happen. I think it's about a 25% chance tomorrow that the Fed's not going to raise interest rates. I think everybody's expecting a 25 basis point hike at this point, but you never know. So we're going to talk about that in more detail as we go along here. Mostly this is going to be the 15-minute filibuster to get everybody amped up and ready. This is like the pregame show. This is like the pregame rally, and then we're going to go over to Odyssey where we're going to cut loose. And what little hair I have left, I'm going to let it all hang out, you know, and go from there. I was searching for a Neil Young joke, and I just couldn't come up with one. So I have to say that was maybe the funniest thing I've seen in quite a while this morning. Was Neil Young coming out and going, if you don't get rid of Joe Rogan's Spotify, you can't have my music. And then it turns out he doesn't even own the rights to any of his fucking music. The truth of the matter is that someone was just desperate to try and get themselves trending on Twitter. And, well, you know, I guess, you know, all news is good news, or all attention is good attention. Who the hell knows? I don't know. It's like listening to Neil Young sing was always like listening to cats fuck. And I'm making that face, you know. Greg Rockenberger. You know, I got a great Neil Young joke. Ready? Neil Young. Exactly. If this is the tailgate party, Sam Minchow, yes, you can start drinking. Drew's in the house. Good evening, Drew. How are you? I don't think I've seen you on the live stream before, Drew. So this is gonna be fun. That'll be fun. So, just hilarious to think that guy actually thought he had any pull this morning. It just goes to show that there is no bottom to the well of self-importance that boomers place on themselves. Just Edward Abbey says someone on Zero Hedge commented that Neil was getting a show together called Farm Aid, with farm spelled with a PH, like he's a member of Fish now. Ooh, that brings me back to the 1990s. All right. So published an article today asking who's afraid of Jerome Powell. We're going to talk about that in greater detail when we get over to Odyssey in about 12 minutes or so. So 12, 13 minutes or so. This is just to remind everybody that I hate YouTube. Fuck YouTube. And if you want the real stream, come over to the real stream over on Odyssey in about, 15 minutes or so. But this is just a way to get everybody onboarded. And the truth of the matter is, if you can't find me on Odyssey by just kind of like, I don't know, going to Odyssey and typing my name into the search bar, I'm not going to put the link in the description to this video because honestly, I don't care. But, hey, it is what it is. I got 5,000 people following me on this platform. I got about 1,000 people over on Odyssey, 900 or so. We'll get you all moved over there eventually. I know you're all kind of, I know it's hard, typing a different URL into the search bar. I know that's difficult. I know it's hard to type my name. It's a little weird. The U comes before the O. And you're all freaked out about that. I know. I'm like trying to do the guy from the Progressive commercial. You're all turning into your parents, but it's happening. All right. So I'm gonna, but we're gonna talk about the FOMC. and what I think is going on in greater detail than what I talked about even in the article that I wrote this morning, and published this afternoon, and the podcast I recently just finished up with Alex Craner, the Naked Hedgie. If you guys don't follow Alex, you absolutely have to. Alex is absolutely one of the good guys, and someone I've known now for almost 4 years, and it's actually almost criminal that I haven't had him on the podcast since the beginning. Alex was the first guy I ever interviewed on a podcast, and he was very gracious to, listen to me step on him like over and over and over again during that show. But that being said, he is a wonderful person to hang out with and chat about things, because he does see things similarly but differently than I do, and he's also willing to spend a lot more time doing research on very, very specific topics, whereas I have to shoot from the fucking hip with the shotgun approach every goddamn day to stay relevant. So it is what it is. All right, so El Vaquero asked, did you see the DoD whistleblowers, Tom? In the military, 300% increase in miscarriages, 300% increase in cancer, 1,000% increase in neurological issues. It's the vaccines. Of course it's the vaccines. It's very clear that, and I know this will probably get me struck from YouTube if I actually say this, but it's clear to me that someone's trying to, go through with their eugenics program that they've been talking about openly for years. It is what it is. It's a travesty, and all that's going to do is destroy military morale even more than it already has. And this is all part of the thesis. This is all part of the plan, guys. It's very clear that Davos has been mining the United States out from within, hollowing it out from within, and now they're going for broke from a multi-vector perspective in order to destroy our faith not only in our government, but in each other, in the very fabric and bonds of society itself, because that is the only way that they can win the day. And if they can't win, well, then they get the backup plan of, hey, if we can't win, if we can't have the United States, then no one can. And then they think that in some way will help them pave the way to keep their little bailiwick, which is in this case their little petri dish, the European Union, from splintering. But Croatia's putting a huge fork in that fucking bubble. It's coming out today and saying that they're going to pull all their troops from NATO and from any potential conflict zone that NATO gets themselves involved with the Russians over the situation in Ukraine. So that's where we are. We've got European countries now resisting even the NATO narrative, the call to arms from NATO. We've got multiple major European nations now looking to rescind all COVID restrictions. Denmark, the Netherlands, a couple of other places, the Czech Republic, and others. And well, not within the European Union, but the United Kingdom and others at this point. It is truly falling apart very, very quickly, and they're going to try very hard to spin up something else next. And right now, that thing that they're spinning up right now is this idea that it's going to be a war between Russia and Ukraine. The Americans and the Brits, though that wing of Davos, whatever you want to call them, at this point, are very much spinning this up to and amping up things to 11, hoping that the Russians will oblige them to begin a war in Ukraine that they've resisted doing since 2014. It's 8 years now, almost 8 years to the day since the Maidan, and when the Donbass republics began to break away, and they began their resistance. And look, it's just very clear that this is not going to that the Russians are not going to oblige us by widely going to war and invading Ukraine, which they don't want. No one wants Ukraine. So it truly is that situation. And anybody who spends just 5 minutes, and I honestly, it doesn't take more than about 5, maybe 10 minutes for your average normie to look into the situation between Russia and Ukraine, read some any alternative commentary on this, or just look at the map and look at the history of it, and ask a very simple question: who really is the aggressor here? Flip the script just a little bit, put yourself in Russia's shoes. Look at the situation in Ukraine and say, who the fuck would want to take this over? I mean, the way the tabloid media in the West is portraying this, it's like Ukraine is this big fucking prize that everybody wants. No one wants Ukraine. The EU doesn't want Ukraine. NATO doesn't want Ukraine. The United States doesn't want Ukraine. Russia doesn't want Ukraine. No one wants Ukraine. Russia already has what matters in Ukraine. They have control of the coal production with the Donbass breakaway republics, and they own Crimea. The rest of Kiev is irrelevant. The rest of Ukraine is irrelevant. But, that is the narrative that they keep portraying here. Like, this is some great prize that everybody should be fighting over. No one wants to fight over Ukraine except for the neocons, because the neocons, the Brits who still believe, and the Brits have co-opted, as Alex Grainer pointed out to me in the podcast that we the other day. We actually recorded that yesterday morning. The Brits just still they when they reached their peak and the British Empire post World War I was beginning to falter, they moved all of their assets and co-opted all the institutions of power here in the United States. Defense, Department of State, the university system, the media, blah, 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 blah. And they run the same playbook the entire time. Remember, I mean, there's a lot of ways to read the overthrow of the Tsar in Russia, that it was backed by Western banking forces, Western financial forces, mostly led by the UK. And Trotsky was their man, and Trotsky got ousted. And Lenin and then Stalin took over. So, and they're so butthurt over this because the whole idea, the whole framework of the first degree of the first standard deviation of everything that encompasses the first standard deviation of thought in foreign policy circles in Europe, the UK, and the West, and the United States, is that he who controls the world island, the Eurasian landmass, controls the world. The Halford Mackinder idea, and it hasn't died yet. It's like this Mackinder style geopolitics is as virulent as fucking Marxism. It's the fucking mind virus that won't die. It just keeps metastasizing over and over and over again into some new, uglier version of itself with each passing generation. And once you see geopolitics from this perspective, once you realize that the Brits are not just a bunch of dorky guys with bad teeth making very dry and effective comedy, you realize that they're people who are in charge are very evil. And it's no different than the rest of Europe. They're all fucking colonialist, shitbird power mongers. Like, there's nothing new here. There's just different flavors of it. There's the Dutch version of it, there's the German version of it, the French version of it, the British version of it, and and all those things kind of coalesce into the melting pot that is the solipsism of the United States. And so ultimately, we're looking at the apotheosis of this mindset, of this program. And it's ending. And it's the only good thing I can say about the people within the Obama administration who realize that this thing needs to end. But they want what they want to replace it with is worse. So as well as we'll get into more detail on that in a little bit. I just want to before we leave YouTube here, I just want to address some of the comments, and then we'll move over to the live stream over on Odyssey. FYI, for those of you who are interested in joining us over there, I do have a link to that stream. Let me go get that real quick, and I'll post it in the chat. So who are interested, it's in the chat, and there it will be. It's already up. It's already running. It's waiting for all of us here. So I do want to say a couple of things. So let's go over some of the comments real quick, and then I'll get you out of here. So Russia, Edward Abbey says, Russia benefits by exercising restraint and not taking the bait. Absolutely does. The empire is not waffling. I disagree with the word waffling, but it is, trying desperately to get everybody, get the Russians to make some kind of horrible and idiotic mistake. And the Russians, of course, are just sitting there going, look, when my enemy's making a mistake after mistake after mistake, you don't get in their way. I know, El Vaquero, I agree with you that people forget that the Euromaidan was a CIA orchestrated coup, and one which was very much, easy to bring about, because there was deep-seated dissatisfaction with Yanukovych. Don't ever minimize that. It was easy to pull off in Ukraine because of how bad things were. Mark Musk asks, is Ukraine not known as the breadbasket of the region? Yeah, but there's nothing being produced. The economy is a shambles. They're literally burning wood to heat the freaking airport, for Christ's sake. It's bad. So there's nothing actually going. It's like Cuba. Like, after all these years of mismanagement, Cuba's sugarcane production is fucked. It's 1/10 of what it used to be. Tobacco production is 1/10 of what it used to be. Stephen Burnage and others, Stephen Burnage says my discussion with Alex was brilliant. Thank you. And Bones Mode, I would have liked the discussion to go longer, but I don't like the podcast to go more than an hour. I think we start getting into the 3-hour Joe Rogan type podcast, and I just don't think anybody wants to listen to me talk hours. I know. As good as the conversation is, I'd just rather have Alex on again and do another podcast. For me, 45 minutes to an hour seems to be the optimal length for a podcast. And since my podcast is, only, is growing slowly, I don't want to put any more people off than need to be. So, we're talking about an audience of about 3,000 to 4,000 people, 4,000 to 5,000 people at this point. So, really needs to keep that in mind. So, all right. I think that'll do. So is Brzezinski's grand chessboard theory based on Mackinder? It's literally Mackinder warmed over. Absolutely. All right. Where is my podcast? You can find links to it on my blog over tomluongo.me. You can find it on Spreaker. You can find it on Apple. You can find it on Amazon. It's everywhere. The RSS feed goes everywhere, so you can find it. Easiest thing in the world. Just look for Gold Goats and Guns on your favorite podcast app. You will. Okay. Been doing it about 4 years now. All right. I think that'll do. So we'll see you guys over on Odyssey in about 3 to 4 minutes. All right, you be good. You take care. We'll talk soon. Thank you for tuning in. Pop on over. Join the club over on Odyssey. Be well. Keep your stick on the eye.